A pale light filled the grand hall of the Orion Council. It was silent except for soft hums from the panels. Alien delegates in varied uniforms watched the stage. Some balanced data pads, some tapped with anticipation, all expected a speech, or threats, or at least words. The human envoy ship Grace of Earth rested in orbit. Through holographic links, its figurehead appeared on the stage. She stepped forward. No words came. No speech designed for show. No bluster. She simply stood steady, her eyes scanned the room calmly. She lowered the universal translator. Then she raised one hand, opened her palm. She did not speak. She did not threaten. She did not demand anything. In that pause, all waited and felt tension flare. Moments passed. Then she turned and walked off the stage, back into darkness. No one moved forward. No one applauded. The camera followed her in silence. The grand doors closed behind her, cutting off her image. The hall remained still. Quickly whispers spread through the room. "Is this an insult?" asked a delegate from the Zelleran sector. Her neighbor, a blue-skinned officer, shook her head. Or a challenge, the council leader, a tall insectoid, named Artek, looked stunned. He pounded a crystal gavel. "Stop. What does this mean? Where are the words?" An aide whispered in his antennae. Artek nodded sharply. "Mute all lines to Earth, halt their docking port, summon them in orbit." The Grace pilot heard urgency over secure lines. Earth's crew linked to the channel, they saw frantic orders. The pilot raised a hand, then shook her head. She declined the docking invitation. She did not reply. She did not threaten. The council sank further. Artek ordered ferocity. "Is this insult again? Block their comlink. We'll force them to speak." Technicians flicked panels. The Earth crew remained silent. Artek climbed to the rostrum. "Send our fleet. In 1 hour, we present our demands." In orbit, Earth's envoy captain listened. She squinted at the holographic feed. Then she touched a single button and ended the transmission. The feed cut off, leaving the council to stare at darkness. A delegate hissed. They cut the line. Artek's mandibles opened and closed rapidly. "Begin Plan Theta 1, he commanded. 5 minutes later, a young human technician replaced the live feed with scenes of Earth, rolling forests, .com waves on beaches, children painting, music festivals under sunset. No violence, no armies, just life. In the council hall, the screens switched to these scenes. Delegates gasped. Some shifted, uncomfortably. One delegate, the glass-skinned Trellman, frowned at the images. "What is this?" A translator console played the sights. No language, no speech, just images. The council leader glowered. "Control the feed. Return to speaker." The technician paused them. Artek griped. "What is their game? Do they mock us?" A calm voice answered through the feed. It was the Earth captain's face. She wore a soft expression. On the panels, words appeared at the bottom. "Speak with your actions, not words." Delegates froze. The image changed Earth scenes yet again, but this time words flashed in many languages. At bottom, "We speak peace through silence." Council members murmured among themselves. Some looked angry. Some looked thoughtful. Some looked afraid. None looked sure. Artek raised a clawed hand angrily. "They mock our laws. They refuse to fight us. This is arrogance." He slammed his gavel again. "Is Earth our enemy? Or has she chosen to ignore us?" He passed a draconian look to his advisors. They spoke in hushed tones. "We cannot ignore their act. Silence is a form of power." Another voice answered. "Leave them stranded in orbit. No return corridor." Artek nodded to the ambassador from Earth's envoy. Still visible on the big screen. They remained silent. In orbit. The Earth pilot looked down at a single blue planet. She whispered to herself. "We told them. Now they decide." Below, on a distant patrol ship, allies watched. Some admired. Some smirked. Some flared shields. In preparation, just in case. Earth's envoy ship sent no threat. It simply rotated away, showing its back to the council. Lights dimmed. Artek slammed another gavel. "Silence is not peace. Restore speaker." Technicians worked to remove the feed. But by then, the effect had taken hold. In the hall, delegates whispered. "We are unsettled. Their silence hurts more than weapons. Perhaps we fear what we cannot hear. My civilization perhaps needs to listen more than speak." Artek noticed the stir. He had hoped to show Earth's arrogance exposed. Instead, the hall bristled with unease. He paced. "Very well. We initiate closure." He made an announcement. "Council members, after careful review, we will suspend Earth's membership until they speak. If they refuse, we will break Alliance protocols." Silence reigned. Outside, Earth's envoy watched. The ship glowed faintly. Pilot pressed a soft button. A small emissary ship, disconnected, claustrophobic and light. This craft descended to Earth. No words. No armies. Inside the council hall, satellites captured the descent. Delegates leaned forward. Some twisted their faces in awe. The shuttle landed on Earth. It opened. The Earth envoy stepped out, walked away from her ship and into the open air. Alone, silent, determined. The satellites recaptured the moment. Above, the council watched her remove her helmet gently and breathe fresh air. She walked away past cameras, past her ship, past waiting envoys. She simply walked. Council members watched in angry, stunned confusion. An outraged voice finally broke the silence. What has she done? Why walk away? Another answered with dread. She leaves her ship, her voice. She leaves, and with it, all power. A third spoke softly. Perhaps she holds more power. When she leaves. The doors closed on the council chamber. In the hallway, the caretakers cleaned the stage. In orbit, Earth's ship remained quiet, waiting. On Earth, the envoy walked onward, free without speech, without weapons, without fear. The great hall of the Council of Species felt heavier than before. After the shocking departure of Earth's envoy in Part 1, silence lingered like a weight across every seat. The delegates shuffled in restless murmurs, their eyes still fixed. On the empty stage, the screen dark where once had stood the grace of Earth, envoy with her open palm. A single beam of light flared from the back, drawing all attention. Soft chimes echoed throughout the chamber. Delegates looked at each other, uneasy. Then, across the screen, flickering images began. Rolling hills of grass, children blowing bubbles, people dancing under colorful lights. Sunshine filtered through, thick forests. Ocean waves rolled gently onto sandy shores. A baby's laughter light crisp echoed in the background. No words, no music, just life. The hall grew deathly still. A Terran delegate from the Zelleran Council, tall and wiry, toward her neighbor. What is this? No one answered. Across the hall, the Insectoid Council facilitator, Artek, glared at the glowing images. They breached protocol, he hissed. No message, no speech, just ... This technician's orders forgotten. Watched. The images play, a spindly scholar whispered in high xenon. Perhaps it is the message. Perhaps humans think louder than words. The footage shifted to peaceful gatherings, families planting gardens, a school of children launching kites, farmers hugging harvests, a violinist playing on a park bench. As each scene showed, a calm hush fell deeper. Tension melted into wonder. Delegates exhaled softly, as if the images breathed them open. Slammed his crystal gavel. Stop this. Return to standard feed. We demand words, or we will view this as mockery. He jabbed a claw at his console, but technicians hesitated, their fingers frozen as the images continued rolling. Sunrises and open hearts. One of them leaned over and whispered, "Calm yourself, Lord Counselor." Their silence breaks more than voices could. The lights dimmed. Again, on the screen, for the first time the envoy's face, soft, resolute, appeared. She stared directly at every species below. A line of text scrolled gently under her face. In over 24 languages, we speak peace through silence. She did not speak. She just stood, looking outward. Then the camera cut back to Earth scenes, mountaintops at sunrise, animals drinking at fountains of dew, people holding hands in grief and joy. More text appeared. Hear the lives, not the words. A hush fell over the hall, flags drooped. At each seat, they looked away, down, inward, unprepared for such power without sound. One delegate wept quietly, an elder from the water world of Nerian, tears rolling. Artek pounded his gavel and roared, "What is this insult?" Lawyer Paddocks, interpret, explain. Lawyer, his translator, swallowed. It is their message. No words, no speech. They offer life, ... through our silence. A shocked ripple passed through delegates, understanding something more profound than politics. Artek's voice cracked. Are we to stand silent? He demanded. No one answered. He paused, looked around, and his voice softened. This council ... is built on words, on treaties, on verse. But they speak life ... beyond all that. They say, listen to your world. Delegates looked at screens in wonder. Some shut their consoles off. Others reached across and held neighbors' hands. The spindly scholar whispered again. They ask us to feel, not respond. At that moment, satellites captured the envoy shuttle landing on Earth. The camera followed her walking barefoot across fields, gathering flowers and seeds. She paused, gazing at the sky. She did not look back. She didn't yell words of defiance. She simply walked onward, The hall saw her step into a scattering of wildflowers, tilting her head in quiet prayer. No flags, no fanfare, just the earth. None spoke, none moved. Many cried, some bowed heads. Finally, Artek let his hammer fall one last time. This council must act, he said softly. They want us to speak with less speech, to understand life before we talk of war. Wordless tension spread across the hall. In corners, council patrons quietly protested. Some even shut down lines. And in that moment, the true echo of humanity spread, not by threat or voice, but by living fully, and trusting no need to prove it. A new dawn broke over the council chamber as delegates returned to their seats, but the atmosphere had changed. After the powerful wordless message in Part 2, everyone wore a quiet tension. Some faces were pale, some were resolute. All eyes tracked the empty stage, expecting something but not words again. They braced for what humanity would do next. Artek, the council leader, tapped his crystal gavel to start the session. He cleared his mandibles carefully. Today, he began, in a voice quieter than before, we face a new test. On the screen behind him, soft light shifted as the orbit of grace of Earth showed up. No voice came, no new images, just her ship drifting in the vast black beyond the planet. A ripple of uncertainty spread across the chamber. A delegate from Orion whispered, "They speak only to leave." Another from Zalara nodded, "They've said enough. What now?" Art took a breath. "We must decide. Speak to them, or let them go." Quiet murmurs passed through the seats. He raised his voice again. "Bring forward motion." Hands rose as delegates debated. First to speak was Trellman, the glass-skinned Zelleran senator. Human silence was not weakness, it was power. But to use that power, should we respond with words, or respect their walk? His neighbor replied, "We walk with Earth or we walk away from the council." From the back, a fiery voice. The Lakshi ambassador Arjul stood. She pounded her console. "They walk away from us. They spit on our treaties." Artek waited. She continued, "I move that we block their return corridor and expel them. Let them lose membership." Some delegations erupted in protest, others nodded slowly. The debate erupted into chaos. Meanwhile, on Earth, the envoy on the ground watched the council feed. She knelt at a field edge and gently touched the ground. Without camera, no one saw her, but her presence felt strong. The council signal kept showing her barefoot silhouette on wild grass, walking slower than before. Back in the council chamber, Arget's motion held weight. A voice from Volton spoke, softly. "Violating silence may spark conflict." An insectoid species representative said, "Words can heal, not blockade." Finally, Artek stood. "We will vote." He used his gavel again. Votes were tallied, many for expulsion, many for restraint. It was split. Artek's antennae drooped. He sighed. "In unity we are weaker, in silence we risk division." At that moment, the human envoy ship, still orbiting, rotated its cameras toward the council. The live feed flickered on every screen. The hall fell silent again. Humans outside waited. Across the chamber, every delegate stared on screen. The envoy raised a small holographic bridge diagram of Earth, without words, floating over soil. Then she stepped away and pressed a button. The screen switched off. She did not speak, she did not demand, she did not threaten. She just showed Earth, then left. The hall members absorbed the visuals. Again, no words. Not simple, not provoking, not building, just symbol and exit. Hands went down, but now heads bent. Council delegates stared at each other, confused. Artek leaned forward. "They offer us a path, not conquest, but choice." He pushed through boxes on his console. "Resume voting. But now with one change. Speech is allowed, but only. Speak of purpose for your presence. If you cannot state purpose," he tapped gavel, "you are free to leave the council." A tremor ran through the chamber. The vote proceeded. Delegations stood, one by one. Some walked out without words, some left in tears. A humanoid species remaining pressed their palms together in honor, and fled. Many removed their council INSIGNIAS. Artek watched the council thin. More and more seats became empty. Maps projected fewer planets, still backing policy. Mid-vote, the Exoshinian delegation rose silently and left. Their planet was the largest. Hall emptied seat after seat. Only a handful remained, loyal minor species and Artek himself. When the vote ended, 20 council members remained from an original 30. It was still enough for quorum, but the message was clear. Humanity's walkout sparked a collapse. None spoke. They waited. Finally, Artek tapped his gavel once more. "We are fewer but more honest," he said softly. "May what remains speak from purpose." The hall was silent beyond the soft hum of systems. On Earth, the envoy opened her helmet for air, looked at the wind, and smiled faintly. She had said no words, only walked in orbit. Grace of Earth turned her engines on, leaving Council gravports. She did not salute, she merely drifted away. On the Council stage, Artek looked at his few remaining members. We must rebuild. But not by pushing, by listening. The cameras cut. The session ended. Delegates filed out in small groups, mumbling, "We broke our own laws." Some wept softly, some stared at an empty stage, and outside on Earth a line of soil lay undisturbed, marked only by the envoy's footprints. The council chamber was nearly empty. Only a handful of delegates remained. Artek stood at the front, his mandibles trembling with concern. He pounded his gavel lightly, but no authority remained behind the sound. The hall echoed emptiness. Where once voices rang. Outside, screens flickered. Some showed corridors that once led to plenary rooms. Now they gleamed with dust. A single camera panned across seats bearing abandoned datapads and fallen cups. Artek looked around. His voice shook when he spoke. "We are fractured. Our unity has failed. We must decide now, or lose everything." He paused, studying the small number of delegates left. Only 10 out of 30 remained. Enough for quorum, perhaps, but not for power. In the front row sat Ambassador Zero of Valton. Her arms were folded. She stared at him, her eyes hard. Next to her was Dr. Malik, the Rustian scholar. He looked pale, absent-minded. Behind them stood a lone insectoid from Nerian, silent. Artek swallowed. "We cannot rebuild with words alone," he said. "If we send an envoy to Earth, will we speak, or walk?" Someone replied, voice low, "If we speak, we may lie. Speak of peace while planning war. If we walk, we may be cowardly." A small murmur went through the room. Artek nodded. "Let me propose. We offer silence. We walk together in their footsteps." Zira frowned. "Is that not surrender?" Artek shook his head. "No, it is mutual trust. They taught us silence. We learn now." Malik cleared his throat. Treaties depend on shared decision-making. If we walk, our treaties fall apart." Artek looked at him. "Then we must live without treaties. We must find a new way." The walls flickered. The signals from orbit showed the Grace of Earth's ship passing through alone. No fleet followed. It glided. Alone, the alien delegates watched on small screens above. Their faces showed turmoil, resignation, grief. Artek spoke again. "This is what they showed us. No words can stop silence. Are we brave enough to walk, or shall we cling to speech that tore us?" Zira's jaw clamped. Silent tears gathered. She lowered her head. Dr. Malik inhaled, turned to the rest. "I will walk." The insectoid shifted, looked at others. They stood. One by one, delegates rose. Each one took a final glance at their empty seats. One tapped their holopad, closed accounts. Another pocketed a treaty scroll, and each walked out quietly, together. Only Artek stayed behind. He looked at the empty seats and sighed. The camera caught his long shadow crossing the floor. He walked out toward the doors past the departed council. Outside in the corridors, former aides and clerks lined up. They bowed respectfully. Artek passed with his head down. Cameras from orbit watched. In that moment, the council system collapsed, not with anger, but with acceptance. No speeches, no violence. Just departure. In the council's fortress labyrinth, alarms went off as systems shut down. Press offices locked. Security drones powered down. Diplomatic delegations were recalled. In a remote office, technicians tapped. Terminals, message after message, went outbound. Expulsion happening. Treaty systems offline. No power to initiate process. They watched the security cameras as Earth's envoy walked on blue planet soil. Then the feed died. A technician whispered, "We broke it." Another replied, "Our voices broke it. She walked it." Council servers began erasing treaty logs. Files closed and compressed. Historical records marked end of tenure. What remained were traces, a message on a chat line that said simply, "Learn to listen." In orbit, the remaining fleet hovered listlessly. Ships that once formed a grand corridor of Alliance vessels now circled quietly. No formation commands, no drills, no weapons charged. Pilots floated in tunnels, monitored star charts with no destination. One pilot looked at the empty sky beyond Earth. She tapped on a hot. It read, "Order removed, maintain mission." The pilot closed eyes, exhaled. She spoke out loud, though no one listened. "I don't know why I stay." Around her, others looked at screens showing Earth's envoy walking deeper into forests. The live feed ended as she disappeared beneath giant trees. Back on the ground, Earth's envoy walked away from her shuttle far more than council halls. She felt soil under bare feet for the first time in months. She let the sun warm her face. She paused at a stream's edge and cupped water in her palms. She drank, cold and alive. Beside her, the pilot who accompanied her stood quietly. They carried no weapons. They carried a basket of seeds and clean water. She placed the seeds into the wet earth. The envoy spoke softly for the pilot, not for the galaxy. This is all we need. They walked onward, leaving no tracks. Just footsteps. Back at the council planet's command tower, Artek watched the final camera feed from orbit. He stared as Earth's envoy walked away. The sun caught her silhouette for a moment and she vanished. His eye stalks closed. He thought, they broke something deeper, something beyond treaties. They reminded me, speech without heart means nothing. He released his seat, stood straight, and tapped a final command. Shut down all council power. Issue no new mandates, send no fleets. He watched as systems closed. Then he turned and left. The control tower. No words, no delay. Within days the council planet became quiet. Council banners were removed. Halls were locked. A new calm descended. Remnants of the organization remained libraries, study groups, think tanks but not commands. No orders, no crowns. In space, the remaining ships either returned home or became floating museums trophy vessels. Shells of pride. On Earth, whispers rose through villages. The envoy's simple act of silence and walking had echoing power. People spoke of her deeds, not speeches, but acts. A new movement began. The walkers, they traveled silent routes, planting trees, teaching people to listen. Years passed. No wars broke. No council reformed. But peace grew slowly as cultures learned to walk softly, to plant, to listen, to act without speech, to carry seeds instead of guns. Earth became myth. The council became legend. But one image remained. A lone figure walking on grass, sending no voice, but saying it all. Calm descended on what was once the council's planet. City squares echoed, empty banners removed, seats abandoned. Yet life pulsed slowly. Markets reopened. Children played under open skies, and art returned to walls. No council voice guided them, but quiet hope took root. Above, in quiet orbit, the human envoy ship Grace of Earth hovered. Below, scientists, artists, farmers, and engineers watched through feeds. In the settlement fields, tens of thousands planted seeds dropped by the envoy's shuttle, seeds gifted in silence and trust. A steady hum filled empty halls of power. It wasn't speech, it was action. On the planet formerly known as Nexus Prime, former council leaders gathered in an unused amphitheater. Artek sat on the cracked steps, surrounded by Zira, Dr. Malik, and a handful of others. No security, no diplomats, just former ministers. Artek looked upward. We made space for something new, he said softly. Malik nodded. We removed power, but we still need purpose. Zira placed a small wooden crate in front of them. Inside lay seed packets native to Earth and X-Bags Faltenerian. They bring seeds, she whispered, more than words. They each took one, held it to their heart. Without saying, they planted in the dry soil of the amphitheater. Meanwhile, Grace of Earth launched a small fleet of maintenance drones and floating biospheres to orbiting ruins of council space stations. No announcement, no ceremony, just silent renewal. Famers among the flotillas planted gardens in microgravity. Technicians tested solar arrays. They restored power quietly. Back in orbit, the former commander of a council warship looked through the viewport at Earth below. This is peace, he said softly. Crew adjusted navigational lights to mimic Earth's green-blue color. No signal, just presence. On Earth, the envoy stepped off Grace. She walked again barefoot into a field where volunteers from many species waited in silence. They held baskets of seedlings. Together, human and alien hands planted rows of unity in the dirt. No speeches, no leaders, just many hands. In the small town next to the field, a group gathered around makeshift wagons carrying seeds and tools. An X-Pax farmer dipped seeds into earth. A Voltan youth poured water from a shared container. A Rustian engineer adjusted a moisture sensor. A human teacher wrote a single line on chalkboard. We grow together. That was their treaty. On the former council planet, the group held a simple ritual. They each placed Earth seeds into a fountain of water from Nerian. When the seeds floated gently, they released them to drift downstream, carried on the current into the wild. A silent vow passed between them. They would repair what was with commands, but with care. In orbit, Grace of Earth lowered a coded message to remnants of council ships. Plant peace where words failed. An empty relay sphere floated past satellites, no voice. Just signal to move seeds and tools. At the amphitheater, Artek looked across the field they planted. Small green shoots poked through soil. He placed his hand on the nearest sprout and nodded. Others followed, each caring for the sprouts. They would tend them. Time would grow them together. Diplomatic outposts in former council worlds changed their focus. No more military command. Instead, eco-centers formed, teaching walkways and seed planting. Treaty halls became gardens. Food markets replaced war archives. In orbit, Grace of Earth powered down its weapons systems permanently. Engineers removed. Control codes tied to warships. Drone maintenance bays were filled with seed capsules and water purifiers. They did not speak. They simply did. Some of the old council species lamented the change. They expected authority, but now their leaders held seeds, not scepters. A former general said softly, "I traded battle plans for crop plans and I have never felt more alive." On Earth, volunteers of mixed species came together. They built a small museum of council artifacts but repurposed them as planters. Gavel fragments became sculptures with sprouts growing out of them. The empty seat of Artek was placed in a park, with a plaque reserved for those who listen. In orbit, Grace of Earth turned from orbit, its mission for now complete. The ship climbed away, leaving behind silent stations and thriving seeds. No announcements followed. Back on the amphitheater, Artek brushed soil off his hands. He looked at Zira. She smiled softly. The silent treaty signed by Seed. They shared a nod. Across worlds, sprouts emerged. From Earth to Council Planet, vines wound around corridors. Life crept into abandoned halls. Seeds planted by the envoy and her allies grew as living symbols of peace. In time, descendants of the council seeds formed a network. It became known as the Silent Treaty, an ecology of gardens, farms, forests that grew where conflict once ruled. No words sung its name. It grew by action. Galactic change unfolded slowly but clearly, without council edicts. Each species felt unsure. Old alliances creaked. Some erupted in protest. Others chose to follow the example of Earth's Silent Treaty but without a blueprint on Vulcan. Rumors spread of alliance breakdown. Headlines read, "Council gone. Now what?" Small gathering halls turned into planning centers. Dissidents argued, reclaimed diplomatic power, or formed smaller coalitions. At one gathering, young delegate Myra stood. "Our council once spoke for all. Now they speak only for gardens. We need action food. Yes, but we need security too." She raised her voice. Faction A proposes a new alliance of 10 planets with military backup. Cheers exploded. Others shouted, "No, seeds, not guns." In orbit, above Xbax Prime, fighters hovered silently. Former commanders tested systems, but ground commanders sent vessels to Earth to study the new pact. Captain Torix, of the cruiser Silent Dawn, watched the Earth envoys last. Transmission: a field of sprouting gardens on a small hollow console. He tapped fingers. "They plant with no orders, but are more powerful than any cannon," he muttered. He turned off weapons systems and walked away, saying, "We join in peace." On Nexus Prime, the former Council World residents walked through. Empty plazas now filled with wildflowers. Farmers set seeds in broken seats. Children played hide-and-seek among amphitheater vines. In a hive-shaped home, Zira, Artek, and Malik sat by a garden display. They no longer had titles like council, leader, diplomat, scholar. They were simply gardeners now. Zeera pointed to sprout-filled pots. "Some planets want to stay quiet. Others want to rebuild a political council." She paused. "I proposed we co-create a network of silent embassies. No armies, no speeches, just shared gardens." Malik frowned slightly. "But dissent grows alone. We must keep our factions from Some old military guilds are now forming private fleets, selling weapons." Artek looked toward his old embassy window. "They fear ... or hope, but we can't stop them with power." He held a seed vial. "Maybe we stop them with friendship, shared farms across borders." On Rustia, former military scientists tinkered. They argued, "If we plant seeds, will someone invade?" Some built weapons, others built drones to protect farms. A balance formed. A small group of students launched secret code to share with Earth. They wanted to help monitor emerging weapon factions and direct them to agriculture instead. In orbit above Earth, Grace of Earth circled. Engineers worked to prepare new drops water purifiers, bioseeders, solar kits for former council worlds. No fleet followed. On its bridge, the pilots smiled at field livestreams. They evolve in silence. Back on Earth's Envoy base, Mira, Earth pilot, spoke quietly to a mixed species group gathered to prepare seed shipments. A X-Bax farmer nodded. A Rustian engineer smiled. They loaded drone silent couriers heading to Volton. X-Bax Rustia, she said softly. We plant hope, not words. Meanwhile, resistance emerged. On a distant rebel group near Volton, weapons merchants whispered, "The council is dead. No one stops conflict now." They built shuttles equipped with guns covertly, preparing to sell arms to break up factions. A lone dissident, Kai, heard them. He sent a signal. Earth plants gardens. We will show them seeds, not weapons. He set up a secret greenhouse. Word spread quietly. We protect farms, not fleets. On X-Bax Prime, Captain Torix hosted a farmer delegation from Earth. He led them through labs where weapons once grew, now replaced with seed pods. He promised, "Our whole fleet will help with food, not bombs." He recorded a message. "We are joining the Silent Treaty Network." In orbit above Volton, 2 Alliance warships hovered. An armed faction ship appeared. It bore no insignia, just raised shields. No announcement, but its path took it toward Volton's capital. Volton Space Control locked it. The mysterious ship slowed near Earthseed drones. No fires, no emissions, just a soft hum as it passed. It did not attack. Then it veered away. A Volton officer said, "That is peace by avoidance. They test us. Oh, or they may join." At the former council amphitheater, Zira planted a seed from Earth next to a sprig from Volton. They worked together. Dr. Malik watered it. A crowd gathered: farmers, students, artists. Silence filled the space. A small boy asked, "What treaty is this?" Zira smiled. "It is Silent Treaty, the Treaty of Gardens." The children clapped quietly, as if they sensed more than words. Still, resistance groups grew. Military engineers on Rustia built secret drones to patrol farmskeeping. Rogue factions from planting weapons in distant labs. They coded stealth. Bots that plant seeds quietly distribute water. On Earth Envoy base, Myra watched live feeds. She spoke to her co-pilot. "Every world we serve grows gardens, not guns." They uploaded mapping coordinates for new drops. Then she paused. "We must learn to guard peace, even without armies." He nodded. "Silence needs protectors too." In orbit above the galaxy, a ragtag fleet drifted, part farm ships, part defense quiet ships. They called themselves Seed Guardians. They flew near conflict zones, no weapons, only shields, sanitation, drones, medicine kits. Seeds. Their banner, "Grace of Earth." On Earth, reports came back. Volton farms thrived. X-Bax began trade of garden produce to Rusty. A peace increased, but military factions still existed, selling guns to rebel groups. Some planets questioned Earth's resolve. Will they intervene if war breaks? Myra and Kai held a secret. Kai asked, "If they attack us, will Earth act?" Mira answered gently, "We won't send bombs, we'll send seeds that heal." He replied, "But if they threaten the gardens?" She paused. Then silence. "May break, but only to stand guard." They agreed to build non-violent defense shield drones, not missiles. Back in orbit above Council worlds, an old Council ship launched a greenhouse module named New Hope to orbit above former Council planet for seed sharing and study. Malik Artek watched from surface as it lifted silent and green. Months passed. The network grew. Smaller planets joined in. Planets that refused were ignored peacefully. On Earth's Envoy base, Myra looked at a holomap, dots of green life, spreading across worlds. She pressed her palm on the screen. "We walk together," she whispered. Ships from different worlds approached Earth's orbit, drawn by the growing silent network. They came in small groups, no flag, no sound, no airstrike. Their purpose was simple, yet unexpected: to witness humanity's quiet power. The first to arrive were the X-Bax delegation. Their cruiser, Silent Dawn, drifted near the Grace of Earth ship. Captain Torix led a small, unarmed team to the surface. They carried only modest gear, soil testers, water filters, camera drones. They landed near the fields planted by Earth's Envoy weeks before. A breeze swayed the seedlings. No grand stage, no pomp, just Earth soil and living green. Torix knelt, touched the earth, and whispered in his own tongue, "So this is your message, life." Around him, X-Bax farmers and diplomats nodded, tears visible in their eyes. Next came a small Volton group. They walked the fields, planting their own seeds. Beside Earth plants, they stayed silent, observing how humans greeted them, not with speeches, but with cup of water and seed packs. At midday, a human farmer shared lunch, flatbreads and herb tea. The Voltan delegation bowed with surprise. No armored guards, just garden tools. Their leader, Myra Valton, smiled softly. Your silence teaches us more than words. Meanwhile, secret transmissions had alerted Rustia's student force. They prepared a small delegation of engineers carrying seed drones and shield kits. They patched up spare parts left behind in orbit and traveled to Earth. They landed under trees and found the Earth habit. No walls, no checkpoints. A human greeted them and simply said, "Welcome." There was no translator, just a nod and a smile. Rustian engineers joined Earth volunteers to assemble soil sensors. They worked in silence. Then someone tapped a gentle beat on a drum. Music without words. Others joined. Nearby, humans moved aside and nodded in quiet thanks. In orbit, more ships, camp-pilots, farmers, scholars, all drawn by stories of Earth's peaceful revolt. Cameras watched live streams. Debates began across species. Could this be real? A world that invites life with nothing but dirt, water, and silence. But not all stayed peaceful. One evening, a small shuttle crashed silently in orbit above Earth. No weapons fired. The shuttle just tumbled. Screens on grace of Earth flickered. On board, a lone pilot from a minor system awoke. Stunned. A human medic glided in and gently offered water. No questions, no tests, just care. The news flashed. Silence heals even after crash. The pilot nodded slowly, too surprised for words. Back on Earth, a campus-style gathering took shape. Each new arrival found a field station staffed by mixed crews. There were no flags, only signs reading "Earth welcomes allies." No weapons were allowed. No speeches were made. But small gifts were offered: local seeds, soil samples, music without words. X-backs performed quiet music on stone instruments. Voltan offered water-sourced art. Rustian mapped seed growth using Earth compute devices. All under the same sky. In silence. As days passed, some delegations noticed patterns. Earth had no military presence, no watchtowers, no uniformed authority. There was no intimidation, but there was safety. Gardens thrived under care, not command. The Saphirians' minority technicians from a far-off star watched quietly. Their world had lost its forests in old wars. On Earth they touched soil for the first time. They whispered among themselves, "Humanity plants what we lost." In orbit, the Grace of Earth pilot monitored energy signatures from new arrivals. No weapons, but plenty of drones. Her screen flashed. All delegations have lowered shields. None built bases. All seem peaceful. She relaxed, then tapped the console. Let them come. Let them learn. Zira Artek and Moloquant's council leaders traveled to Earth too. They arrived at the amphitheater, now full of sprouts. They knelt and placed seed bulbs they brought from that planet. No cameras. Artek closed his eye stalks. "We taught this without might," he said. "We follow now, not lead." They planted and walked away. Their footsteps were soft in the grassy rows. However, word reached Voltan. A rift faction in distant systems built silent weapon caches, shadow drones sold to unseen buyers. Some feared Earth's influence might fade too soon. Mira of Voltan spoke through secure "Come to Earth. We love what you offer. But crackpots prepare weapons in our world. Can you help without war?" Earth's envoy replied with action, not speech. Within hours, a seed drop of guard shield drones and farm drones waited near Voltan orbit. No bombs, only shields and seeders. The Voltan team assembled them and watched as they automatically streamed down to orbit farms. No speeches, no flags, just help. Meanwhile, underground labs on Rustia tested silent auto-drones that mapped soil erosion. Earth volunteers shared their designs. Soon Rustia's engineers could protect fields everywhere again, without weapons. On Earth, the Grace ship's captain held a quiet meeting for new arrivals. She nodded to each: X-Bax, Captain Torix, Voltan Mira, Rustian Malik, Saphirian Liar. No title was addressed, only names. She said simply, "Walk the fields, plant seeds. If you need help, share your skills. Thank you for believing in silence." They nodded. Each took a seed. Earth crew watched as they walked into the fields. In orbit, a fleet of neutral ships loitered, monitoring this silent diplomacy. On one bridge, a warship commander looked down at Earth feed. "These people, no fortress, no warnings, just life." He tapped his console. "Deploy drones, field repair drones. They may threaten our fighter training, but maybe they show us something else." As Earth's model spread, signaling grew. Flags were removed from embassies. Warships returned. 2 homeworlds treaties became seed packs. Specialists wrote papers on silent diplomacy, but no one spoke them. People just lived them. In orbit. The gray ship recorded a message without speech. Footage of seedlings growing on 5 planets. A pattern. A wave of green. Then the words flashed. They came to see. They stayed to plant. Humanity showed more than letters. They planted hope. On a distant world, children replayed the video for replayed eyes. They watched Earth's envoy walking barefoot on grass. They pressed palms to screens. No one said a word, but worlds spoke in quiet unity. The X-Pax mission head told her crew, "This is not weakness, this is endurance." She planted another seed, then named it humanity's mirror. In orbit. Grace of Earth drifted alone, its job done, but its mission ongoing. Seed drones ready, shield drones spun, repair bots orbiting rusted stations, planting new hope. In the final scene, across several worlds, green sprouts break through soil. X-Pax's rocky fields, Volton's sandy plains, Rustia's red dust. They formed a galaxy-wide web of gardens that each planet grew on its own, but they grew with shared seed, codes, shared spirit, silent hands. Earth's silent revolution had spread across worlds. Gardens grew in place of battleships. Seed drones hovered outside former council orbits. Repair crews worked in abandoned stations. No weapons, just care. But unknown threats still lingered. In corners of the galaxy. Up of Earth, the Grace of Earth maintained orbit. Its captain watched familiar faces on screens. Torix from X-Pax, Myra from Volton, Malik from Rustia, Leah from Septier. Each had planted life and each carried a seed. Of hope, no speeches, no applause, only shared purpose. Yet whispers spoke of pirate fleets rearming far beyond X-Pax's reach. Scattered rebel rifts in Rustia sold hidden weapons. A sense of fragility grew. World peace demanded more than seeds. It needed watchfulness too. But what kind? Without weapons, but with unwavering resolve. On Torix's cruiser Silent Dawn, shield drones patrolled X-Pax's far fringes. They glowed softly in night sky, drifting over plantations. He stood on the bridge, reviewing sensor logs. No threats detected, he reported quietly. Only quiet fields. He touched a screen showing the Earth envoy walking among seedlings. Torix nodded. We defend by helping them grow. In Volton's capital, Mira watched the seed drones land. Local youth cheered. Farmers carried saplings into classrooms. From behind them, Mira turned to greet the Ranger Fleet's shield pilots. These are defense, she said, protecting what we planted. Back at Rustia's engineering yard, Malik oversaw silent orbit drones wrapping former weapon stations in biofilters. Rustian engineers whispered, convert bombs into biolabs. And they did, in secret, away from politicking, on Earth. The envoy planted a final field outside her base, next to a small memorial inscribed simply, "Here we chose silence over power." She touched the Earth and closed her eyes. A seed dropped into the soil below her fingertips. In orbit, an unidentified vessel emerged near X-Pax's protectorate. It was sleek, unarmed but not part of any fleet, cloaked just enough to remain unknown. Its sensors quietly scanned settlement drones below. Torix's screen flashed. He froze. "I don't know them," he whispered, "but they are not pirates, no weapons. Still, we must respond." Meanwhile, on Earth's envoy ship, drones intercepted a distress ping from Volta. Small station's shield drone had malfunctioned. A seed farm sensor field going dark. Captain of Grace, Myra and Malik convened on the bridge. The captain spoke. "Shall we intervene?" Malik nodded. "Yes. Without weapons, we send repair drones." They launched a drone swarm. It raced toward Volton, silent, resolute, over Volton farms. The orbiting seed drones flared blue to green. The distress faded. Signal returned. A small cheers rose on Earthlive feed. Families waved at screens. It was simple. A crisis met without guns, just care. The captain of the unknown ship watched it all. She recorded the drone swarm in orbit. She said softly, "I came to test them, but they stood true." On X-Pax, Torix voted to approach the unknown ship gently. They guided it into a field corridor, a zone marked by seed drones and shield halos. The vessel activated docking protocols. Inside, the captain revealed herself. Commander Celine Erith, descendant of Earth's original restoration fleet. She carried no weapons. She carried seeds and shield nodes. She had tracked Earth's silent Pactan come to join it. She explained, "I bring nothing but seeds. I left Peacebreaker to help with shield logic, no bombs." She offered a small handful of golden seeds. "Please tell humanity they have more friends now." On the Grace, the original envoy, a gentle human, smiled as she shook hands with Erith. "Your seeds multiply our peace," she said softly. "No crowd, No speeches, just mutual understanding. Back in orbit, Torek cinched cheers from both captains. Peace expanded, but across the galaxy, not all were pleased. A rebel fleet approached Rustia's border armed this time. They claimed the seed network threatened their trade. They wanted peace and profit. Rustian systems flashed warnings, aggressive, weapons locked onto seed farms. But then, the Guardian satellites of Earth Voltan X-Backs triggered shield drones in repulsion mode. They didn't attack, they blocked. They created a calm zone. Rebel ships could withdraw, be blocked. The rebellion paused. Confusion, fear. Then, silence reigned again. Rustia's engineer Malik sent drone messengers with repair kits, quietly attaching neutral modules to the ships. They glowed green. The rebels asked no questions. The drones flew away. On X-Backs and Earth broadcasts, images showed shield drones gently nudging rebel ships. Away, no damage done. Families cheered. Rebel families watched from their ships. Number 1 died even though weapons systems were triggered but never fired. Peace held. Back in orbit above Earth, the envoy retired to a small observation lounge. Aerith joined her. They watched shield drones circle over a valley where fields met forest and human settlements. Clouds moved. A seed sprouted where once was barren land. Aerith said, they could use weapons. They chose not to. The envoy smiled gently. This is humanity's final turn. We showed we can defend, without destroying. Meanwhile in the gardens on former council worlds, children picked fruit. Families watched orbit drones bringing rainwater kits. Schools began teaching not war and power, but seed diplomacy and silent stewardship. At a conference ring above Rustia, former generals and diplomats met. They looked at images of seed farms and shield drones blocking rebels. A veteran whispered, we cannot go back. This works. We protect with kindness. They agreed. Back on Earth, the envoy planted the final seed in her seed field. It glowed softly. She whispered, let peace be born not from talk but from our last choice to walk away armed, but not triggering harm. In orbit, ship joined the orbiting constellation of Cedars and Shillardas together. They formed the Galactic Green Watch, not a fleet of warships but a network of guardians. Months later, a ceremony took place quietly. No speeches, no parades. The and allied leaders Torix, Mira, Malik, Arath knelt on Earth soil. They touched the ground in unison. On their palms burned no fire, they held dirt and seeds. Cameras recorded, then turned off. On every world, screens went black. Garden lights glowed under skies. People whispered, they stood guard, but left us space to grow. A final holoquote flashed in the software of the Guardian Ring. No threats, no words, just humanity walking away, and the galaxy chose to follow.